is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
All right, it's time to wrap up and put a pretty little bow on Week 14. Maria Taylor alongside Tony Dungy, Jason Garrett, and Mike Florio also joining us. Guys, let's start in the AFC, where we saw Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Baltimore all win. So those are all contenders in the AFC. But Mike Florio, who do you feel maybe impressed you the most this week?
I have to say the Cincinnati Bengals, just because they had this weird thing with the Browns where they couldn't beat Cleveland. They can't lose to the Chiefs, can't beat the Browns. And I know the Browns aren't really operating at where they'd like to be. Deshaun Watson's still getting himself back into shape. But to be able to handle the Browns and do it somewhat systematically, it wasn't all that flashy, but they're working Jamar Chase back into the mix. Joe Mixon was back. He had nearly 100 rushing yards. I think this Bengals team has been moving toward that concept of peaking at the right time, and I think they're there.
Well, I didn't think any of those four teams played great, their type of football, but I'll have to say Baltimore, winning with your third quarterback, getting it done, and holding the fort until they can get Lamar Jackson back.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree with that, but I also think Buffalo. Buffalo, to me, was the most impressive win. The Jets are surging. It's a big game in the division, and they won in a completely different way. The defense dominated. Josh Allen was not spectacular. The offense wasn't spectacular, and they found a way to win, and that's going to serve them well coming down the stretch here.
Yeah, Buffalo, they've won 4 straight after going on a 2-game losing streak. Is that the team who you'd be choosing to get the 1 seed?
It is, for those reasons. You know, if they can win different ways, if they can win with their defense and play well in those conditions up there, they're going to be a tough out down the stretch and also through the playoffs.
I actually think Kansas City is going to end up with the number 1 seed. Their next 3 weeks are Houston, Seattle, Denver again. I think they win those 3 games. They'll be 13-3, looking to go to Las Vegas the last game of the year. I see them finishing with 3 losses. Can anybody else get to that figure? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Mike, what do you think?
I think here's the key, and we so often get bad late season Monday night games because it looked great back in April, but by the time you played all the games out, it falls apart. The last Monday night game of the year for 2022, it's actually in 2023, January 2nd, Buffalo at Cincinnati. I think that game's going to decide the 1 seed. Doesn't mean Cincinnati wins it if they win the game. It may open the door for the Chiefs to take it because, remember, they don't hold the tiebreaker with the Bills. They need to get ahead of the Bills in the final standings.
Well, guys, we also saw some amazing games in the NFC. The Eagles, obviously, they're just being themselves and go in and get a huge victory over the Jets. But then the 49ers, maybe an expectation that we didn't have was that Brock Purdy would come in and basically look like a settled quarterback that has been manning the offense the entire time. He ran for a touchdown, threw for 2, and they got the 35-7 win against Tampa Bay. But let's do the takeaways that we had from both of these squads getting huge victories in Week 14.
Well, let's start with San Francisco, and my takeaway was Brock Purdy is for real. You know, we saw him the week before finish out a game and say, okay, you did well, but let's see when the team game plans for you. He was fantastic against Tampa.
These are hard things to do for a rookie quarterback to come into the NFL and play the way he's played. And I loved how Kyle Shanahan used him. They were aggressive.
Yeah.
It wasn't like run, try to make a 3rd down. They were aggressive throughout. He threw the ball on all 3 levels of the defense. The double move before half was huge, the confidence that Kyle had in him.
And no major mistakes. I mean, that's what you're looking for out of that quarterback. With that defense, that's how you have to play. If he continues to play like this, they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, and you see it right there. I mean, didn't have an interception, threw for those 2 touchdowns. I mean, what was your biggest takeaway, you would say, Mike, about what we saw from Brock Purdy going from Mr. Irrelevant to superstardom with the 49ers?
Well, I think it's exactly what we expected. We didn't expect a big drop-off with Jimmy Garoppolo out. The thing that I've been saying about the 49ers for weeks now, they have a nucleus of star players who have a propensity to get banged up because they play the game with such passion and zeal and physicality. It just happens. Deebo Samuel out today. How many more like that can they withstand? If Nick Bosa goes down, is that enough to knock everything off kilter? That's going to be the key. When they cross paths with the Eagles in the postseason, and it feels like they inevitably will they have enough of those key players healthy? If they do, they got a good chance of winning that game. If they don't, the Eagles have more balance and that talent is more spread out. And I still think the Eagles are the best team in the conference, but the 49ers on any given day, if enough of those guys are healthy, they can beat anybody.
All right, let's bring it back to the Eagles then, and the takeaway of the big day that they had on offense too. I mean, we literally skinny Batman, swole Batman, Jalen Hurts, like anyone, you can give it to anyone, they're going to be able to score, and they were able to do it against the Giants. What was your takeaway, Mike?
They just continue to get in that mode of dominance. And today, you beat a division rival like that was and still is a playoff contender. You are really putting the pedal to the metal as the postseason approaches. That 1 seed, it's just a matter of time before they lock it up. They're going to get the week off. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to be a very, very tough team to beat when the postseason rolls around.
My takeaway is not so much what happened during the game as afterwards. When you hear Nick Sirianni, when you hear Jalen Hurts, hey, we've got more work to do. This was okay, but we've got to play better. I mean, they are pumped and poised, but they're not satisfied.
Yeah, I agree. They rushed for 250 yards today. He made so many big plays in the passing game. Jalen rushed for 77 himself. But that was the big takeaway for me, a championship mentality and an attitude to drive up the turnpike and just go beat them and throttle them.
Yeah.
Okay, and then afterwards say, hey, that's what we're supposed to do. Let's go to the next one. They've had that mentality all year long, and that's why they're the best team in the conference.
Yeah. The Eagles are like the definition of act like you've been there.
Yeah.
They just act like they've been on top of the league.
And I think it comes from their quarterback. I think he's got special kind of leadership qualities that's pervading that entire football team.
Okay, if there was a team that's been perfect and consistent, that would certainly be the Eagles. 2 teams that were not in Week 14 would have to be the Vikings and the Cowboys. I mean, it came down to a nail-biter. The final score for the Cowboys, Dak Prescott has to basically put together a game-winning drive at the end. I mean, what happened? Where did it fall apart at the seams for Dallas? And obviously, they have to be thankful to walk away with the win against the Texans.
To me, they just made a lot of mistakes early on. They had a really good first drive. Turpin drops the punt, and that gives Houston a little bit of life. And then Cowboys can't kind of get it back together. Dak throws a couple interceptions. They get stopped on a 4th down in their close. So a number of these things happen. But at the end of it, they forget how you win these games. They did an outstanding job at the end of the game making a stop on defense, driving 98 yards for the game-winning touchdown. Now you go back and clean it up and get ready for the next one. If you win and keep moving in this league, good things will happen for you.
And I think some of that really, I mean, we always say, well, the players don't hear, and all. You're 17-point favorites. You watch the tape. Houston's playing terrible. They don't look very good. And you make some of those mistakes where you're just not sharp. They'll be better.
And that can happen in Dallas especially. Right? I'm telling you, because there's a lot of attention, a lot of scrutiny. Yeah. When you have success, it's hee-hee, ha-ha.
How does he know? How did he even speak to that? Yeah. Mike, your takeaway on Cowboys?
Well, I wish that I had pulled the thread that popped out of my brain this week about the Texans, because they go to AT&T Stadium once every 8 years. It's a big deal. But I brushed it off because I thought, they're 1-10-1. It doesn't matter. But I think they had that vibe. What else are you playing for when you're that bad? You go a few hours and you beat the Cowboys in their own building, and the only time you may play there in your entire career, that's a big deal. They rose up and they almost pulled it off. And I wish I had taken that possibility more seriously before the game started.
Yeah, the Texans, they were playing hard and they played till the end, but ultimately it was Dallas who prevails. The Vikings, though, can't be said for them. Detroit, the Lions, they've been playing well, and it seems as though the Vikings have been slowing down a little bit as we get to the playoff stretch.
I'll tell you, Minnesota's offense is explosive. They're dynamic, but on defense, they have some issues. We saw it when we were up there for Thanksgiving night. New England had been struggling on offense, and all of a sudden Mac Jones got hot in that game and made it a tight game. These passing attacks, Minnesota, if they don't get a lot of pressure, they're struggling in coverage. Yeah,
teams have run the ball on Minnesota. Teams have thrown the ball on Minnesota. They've moved it up and down the field, but they've been good in situational defense. They've played well on 3rd down and in the red zone at the end of the games. But you're not always going to play well in those situations. And, today they were okay in those situations, and Detroit took advantage of it and really ran them out of the building.
Yeah, Detroit 5-1 over their last 6 games is certainly impressive. Mike Florio, no one knows the Vikings better than you. So your thoughts on the loss in Detroit?
We've used the phrase bend but don't break in relation to the Vikings defense many times this year, and sometimes it's going to be bend and break. And today, it broke, and there was no play to be made, no moment to be had, no magic to be captured by the Vikings defense like they tend to do. And credit to the Lions for staying focused, for not getting freaked out by the fact that, the Vikings are going to come up with a way to pull a rabbit out of the hat. I mean, Patrick Peterson told me last week that he was starting to sense that the opponents were feeling, here it comes. The Vikings are going to do something to take this game away from us. And the Lions stayed focused and got it done. So it's a credit to them. And the Vikings, they still just need to win one game. But, could they lose the next 4? Yes, they could, but I don't think they will.
He's got a lot of scars, doesn't he?
He does, doesn't he? They show up just every now and then. You can see him. You just want to pick the scab. All right, we ran through some of the games and storylines that we were watching, but let's send it over to Steve Kornacki for a better look at the playoff picture.
Yeah, let's take a look at the NFC here and the wild card in particular. So 3 wild card spots. Look, Dallas a win away from locking up at least a wild card. So really the action now is around the final 2 wild card spots on the NFC side. And there we had a shakeup today. Both the Giants and the Seahawks going down. It enabled the Commanders, who did not play this week and started the week outside of the top 7 in the NFC. They vault all the way up to the 6th spot now in the NFC. And Seattle, which began the week in the top 7, ends the week outside of the top 7. Let's take a look at what remains for all 4 of these teams. Again, going for 2 spots right here. Washington, look at this. Our model gives them nearly a 3-4 chance of making the playoffs. A big reason here, they are red hot lately. 6-1-1 in their last 8 games. Obviously, a big one looming next week against the Giants. Meanwhile, the Giants and the Seahawks, we say they lost today. They've both been doing a lot of losing lately. The Giants 1-4-1 in their last 6. Seahawks losers of 3 of their last 4. By the way, they got to deal with the Niners and the Chiefs next. If the Giants and the Seahawks keep losing, it opens the door to, and I can't believe I'm saying this in the middle of December, the Detroit Lions. Those 5 of 6 wins you're talking about have brought them to 6-7. And just today, they began the day with a 7% shot of making the playoffs. They tripled that today. They end the day at 21%. That is better than a 1-in-5 chance that the Lions end up in the playoffs.
So basically what you're saying is Merry Christmas, Detroit Lions fans. Steve Kornacki is saying, you've got a chance, okay? We all love it when Steve Kornacki is here. When the khakis show up, it means we're getting the breakdowns of the playoff picture, which means we're getting closer to the end of the season and a Super Bowl. Let's play a little game called In and Out. Obviously, our Week 14 game was in L.A. We all love an In and Out burger. So you guys got to tell me if these teams are going to make it into the playoffs or you're counting them out, okay? We're starting with the Lions, who we were just talking about. 5-1 in those last 6 games. Are we trusting them?
Yeah, I'm going to say out. Still have 3 road games left. Last game of the year in Green Bay. I just don't know that they could go up there and win in Green Bay if it meant getting in the playoff.
I'm going to go against you, Coach. Right. I never thought I'd say this. I think they're going to make it, and the reason is because they're not playing great teams. Those are road games. There's no doubt about it. But I think their opponents aren't as good as who the other guys have to play. And if they keep playing the way they're playing, I think they got a legit shot at this. It's 21% right now, according
to Steve Kornacki. Okay, we trust them. Mike?
I'm going to say yes, they'll make it, just because I don't have a whole lot of faith right now in the Giants or the Seahawks. Those are the 2 teams the Lions need to leapfrog. But it very well could come down to Lions-Packers. Winner gets in, loser goes home in Week 18.
All right, you mentioned them. Let's go to the Seahawks. They are 1-3 in their last 4.
And I think we're seeing who the Seahawks really are. Now, they didn't have their running backs today, and that really hurts them. When they're not able to run, it becomes tougher. But I just don't see them being a consistent team to win these games down the stretch.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and it's Niners and the Chiefs the next couple weeks, so some tough opponents to go against. It's been a great story all year long. Maybe they can recapture the magic. I don't know.
Mike?
They've gone from Legion of Boom to Legion of Room to Run. 223 yards today, and they've been running the ball against the Seahawks every week. That's the formula. That's the magic to beating Seattle, and I think they're going to have a hard time turning it around this late in the year. It's a shame. It was a great story, but sometimes great stories end prematurely.
Okay, well, what about the Giants and the Jets? They've been a great story all season. We've all been excited for New York City.
Yeah, and I like the Jets. I think they're going to continue to play hard. Their defense is making plays. Hopefully Mike White is healthy. I think they'll win enough to get in. Giants, I think they've got a tough road.
Agree completely. But give the Giants credit. I mean, this team, they played Philadelphia, and they're not even on the same planet right now with Philadelphia from a talent standpoint. They won a lot of games. It's been a tough stretch, though, lately. I think they're kind of getting exposed a little bit. The injuries they've had, they're just not as good as other teams.
Mike?
Yeah, Giants out, Jets in. That comment today from Robert Saleh, which you have to listen to it a couple times to understand. Yeah, he is saying we're going to make it, and we're going to come across the Bills again. He knows how to say the right thing at the right time to get through to his team, and that's an expression of belief in the guys in the locker room. So whether it's Mike White, whether it's Joe Flacco, whether it's Zach Wilson, I think Saleh's going to press the right buttons down the stretch and get them in.
And last but not least, what about the Patriots?
I don't see them making it either. Finishing up with Cincinnati, Miami, and Buffalo, I don't see them going through that gauntlet.
Agree. It's a tough stretch.
Mike?
I still don't pick against Bill Belichick. and there's so much negativity in New England now directed at him, and all the talk about the offense and everything. I feel like he'll spend every waking moment to do everything he can to win every possible game. But the key is tomorrow night. If they lose tomorrow night, they're done. If they win tomorrow night against the Cardinals, they still have hope.
I feel like you had Bill Belichick on the hot seat when we started this season, though. Do you not remember that, Jason?
Right from the get-go.
I don't now. I don't now. Hey, call up our buddy Tom Curran of NBC Sports Boston. He's ready to run them out the door if they don't make the playoffs this year. And it's not a crazy thought based on some of the stuff that's percolated.
I think the line
it
from
could get very interesting if they don't make it.
I think the line from Florio was, I think a lot of people give Belichick a pass because all this. I'm like,
because of his record.
Yeah, he kind of deserved it.
We're just reminding you, okay? We were just running back the tape on you, but we're not going to do a replay. But thanks, guys. You did a great job. That is our Week 14 recap. We will see you for Sunday night, Week 15. We are going to have Washington, and they're taking on
the Giants.
The Giants. I really struggle at the end of the night with this, but we thank you for joining us. We'll see you at 7 Eastern, Football Night in America.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.